Have you ever wondered what enables someone to endure hardships that seem unbearable? In Eastern philosophy, there's a profound concept known as patience. In Chinese characters, it's written as Ren, symbolizing endurance, self-restraint, and compassion. This character isn't merely about tolerating discomfort, it embodies the extraordinary strength of the human spirit, the ability to remain composed and resilient amidst adversity. Interestingly, the character Ren comprises two parts. The top is Dao, Dao, meaning knife, and the bottom is Xin, Xun, meaning heart. This imagery suggests a knife poised over a heart, a metaphor for enduring pain without letting it disturb one's inner peace. It's about maintaining a tranquil heart even when facing life's sharpest challenges. Throughout history, patience has been revered as a noble virtue, a cornerstone for those who achieve greatness, and a key to living a contented life amidst life's inevitable storms. Yet, patience manifests in various forms, from everyday inconveniences to the monumental challenges that shape destinies. The journey of patience, a silent strength within. True patience is not just a quiet surface, it's a quiet storm inside. It's the tension between holding on and letting go, between peace and resentment, between hope and despair. And it is precisely in this silent struggle that great human beings are forged. Abraham Lincoln, enduring failure and doubt with quiet resolve. From the outside, Lincoln's life looked like a string of failures, lost elections, failed businesses, deep personal grief. But beneath the surface, those failures weren't just public embarrassments. They shook his faith in himself. He must have faced the painful questions that many of us know too well. Am I good enough? Do I have what it takes to keep going? Lincoln's patience wasn't loud or heroic. It was quiet, accepting his own limitations, making peace with his imperfections, and still choosing to move forward. It wasn't glowing confidence. It was a single step in the dark, repeated over and over until the light began to return. Years later, he would go on to lead the United States through its bloodiest civil war and abolish slavery, a moment in history shaped not by bold declarations, but by a patient strength that refused to break. Nelson Mandela, choosing forgiveness over vengeance. Mandela's 27 years in prison weren't just about physical confinement. They were a battle inside his own heart. After years of humiliation and abuse, it would have been so easy to grow bitter, to dream of revenge. But he chose something harder. He practiced forgiveness. Every day behind bars, he trained his heart not to be ruled by anger. He understood that even if freedom came, it would mean nothing if his spirit was still enslaved by hatred. So he endured. And when he finally walked out of prison, he didn't seek retribution. He led his country toward reconciliation. That was patience, transformed into leadership. Mother Teresa, holding compassion through silence and rejection. To the world, she was a saint. But inside, Mother Teresa lived through loneliness and doubt that few ever saw. She gave everything to the poor and the dying, yet sometimes faced criticism, suspicion, even coldness from the very people she served. Her greatest challenge wasn't poverty or disease. It was holding on to love when love was not returned. She endured not just suffering, but indifference, and still chose to keep loving. That, too, is patience, the strength to keep your heart open even when the world turns away. Looking at these lives, one truth becomes clear. Patience isn't passive. It's not giving up. It's the brave, quiet decision to protect your peace, even when life rages around you. But if patience in everyday life is already difficult, then patience on the path of the Spirit, in our search for wisdom and truth, is an even greater challenge. Patience in Buddhism, a path of compassionate strength. In Buddhism, patience is not just a noble quality, it is a spiritual discipline. It is one of the core practices that help transform suffering, dissolve inner turmoil, and preserve the natural purity of the mind. True patience is not simply about endurance, it is the kind of stability that cannot be shaken, even in the face of blame, injustice, or deep pain. One of the most vivid examples of this principle is the story of Zen master Hakuin Ekaku, one of the most influential teachers in Japanese Zen history. When Hakuin was still a young monk living in a quiet village temple, his life was suddenly thrown into turmoil by a false accusation. A young woman in the village became pregnant by a fish vendor from the local market. But since they weren't married, and premarital pregnancy was considered a serious offense, she feared public shame and punishment. So, to protect herself, she named Hakuin as the father. The news spread quickly. People who once respected him now turned their backs. They came to the temple, shouting insults, accusing him of disgraceful behavior, calling him a fraud and a stain on the Buddhist path. But Hakuin did not argue. He did not defend himself. He simply responded, "Is that so?" When the child was born, the girl's family brought the baby to the temple and told him, "This is your responsibility now. Raise him." Without hesitation, Hakuin took the baby into his arms and simply repeated, "Is that so?" From that day on, he cared for the child in silence. Every day, he walked through the village asking for milk, facing contempt, ridicule, and silence. Yet never once did he complain, explain, or justify himself. Yet his silence was not weakness. It was not passivity or indifference. It came from clarity. He understood that truth does not need to shout, that injustice does not have to be fought with pride. What mattered most was keeping his heart free from hatred and his mind free from disturbance. Years later, overwhelmed by guilt, the young woman confessed everything. Her family returned to the temple, ashamed and repentant, asking to take the child back. Hakuin, with his familiar gentle smile, handed over the baby and said once more, "Is that so?" 3 simple words, but within them an entire ocean of stillness, of patience, of deep compassion. His silence was not retreat, it was wisdom. He didn't need to be right. He didn't need vindication. He only needed to protect the integrity of his heart and the space for forgiveness to exist. That, in the Buddhist tradition, is true patience. It is not about swallowing pain or pretending to be unaffected. It is the ability to remain soft, clear, and open-hearted in the face of injustice. Patience like this does not shrink us. It enlarges us. It gives us depth. It makes us free. The deep nature of patience, staying still amidst chaos. People often think of patience as simply enduring. But if patience only means endurance, it can easily turn into suppression. And what is suppressed cannot last. Over time, repressed pain turns into resentment, and that resentment becomes inner fracture. That's why in Eastern traditions, especially in Taoism and Buddhism, patience was never meant to be just about holding things in. At its highest level, patience is the ability to remain still in the heart, to remain unstained in the mind, and to keep the softness of the soul, even when the world around you hardens. At its core, patience is the ability to live in the world without letting the world sweep you away. It's when you hear harsh words but don't respond with anger, when you're treated unfairly and don't let hatred settle in your heart. It's when you choose silence, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough not to be dragged into a meaningless fight. Patience isn't about gritting your teeth to get through it. It's the ability to loosen, to breathe, to be still, right in the middle of pressure. It is keeping your center steady while everything shakes around you. It is walking through a storm and still keeping your inner flame from going out. We cannot stop the world from being unfair. We cannot stop pain or frustration from happening. But we can learn to stop reacting out of old patterns. We can learn to observe instead of immediately resist. We can choose to take a deep breath instead of speaking words that harm. And every time we do that, we are practicing patience in a way that is natural, compassionate, and wise. In a world that is increasingly impatient, where people are quick to anger, quick to hurt, quick to retaliate, patience becomes a precious virtue, like gold, not just because it helps us avoid conflict, but because it becomes a soft armor that protects our hearts from becoming hardened by life. To hold your peace in the middle of chaos, that is patience. To not lose yourself in right or wrong, winning or losing, that is patience. To pause, to listen, to smile, and keep walking, that is patience. And once you can live with this kind of patience, you become grounded in any situation. You're not pushed, you're not pulled, you're not lost. And when you live with that kind of presence, that kind of inner calm, you begin to touch the effortless flow, the natural ease that Lao Tzu called Wu Wei. Conclusion: patience and the wisdom of Wu Wei. In today's world, many people believe that success comes only through struggle, that we must fight, push, and control every outcome to get what we want. But in truth, peace, happiness, and even success often arise from something that feels quite the opposite: the quiet strength of patience and the courage to let go. In both Taoist and Buddhist thought, patience is deeply connected to a core idea known as Wu Wei, a teaching from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Wu Wei is often misunderstood as doing nothing, but it is not laziness or passivity. It means acting in alignment with the natural rhythm of life, doing the right thing at the right time, and more importantly, knowing when to let go and allow life to unfold on its own. When you practice patience, you begin to release your grip on anger, anxiety, and the need to control what is beyond your reach. And in that release, something beautiful happens. You begin to flow with the greater current of life. Events start to arrange themselves in ways you couldn't have planned, not through force, but through quiet alignment. As Confucius once said in a famous verse, "Heaven says nothing, yet the seasons come and go, the world transforms, and life goes on. Heaven says nothing, and yet everything is done." This is how life truly works. It doesn't need noise, resistance, or control. Things grow, change, and resolve in their own time, with grace and balance. That is the art of patience, and that is the deeper spirit of Wu Wei. When we can keep our hearts calm, when we no longer tremble before life's storms, when we are willing to let go with ease, then happiness, peace, and even success come to us naturally, not because we forced them into being, but because we became still enough for them to find us. This is the true power of patience, and it is the quiet gift that Wu Wei offers to anyone who dares to trust it. Try it. even just a little, and you may feel your life shifting in ways you never imagined possible.